We are in Champions League, man.
That was my next
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on.
Encara Messi, 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 gol, 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 gol.
Into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
This is the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast with Gary Curneen.
Hello, welcome to the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. My name is Gary Curneen. Joining me for this episode is Graham Mills. Graham worked with AFC Bournemouth as a youth development phase coach, and he recently took a role with Solent University as a football lecturer. So our topic is study visits and coach education trips. The reason for getting in contact with Graham, he posted a presentation from a visit to AZ Alkmaar in 2018, and I came across it and it was unbelievable. I used it for my 433 book and used some of the work, and then connected with Graham and we talked about coach education, and I wanted to get him on to talk about that. It's a question I get quite a lot, coaches reaching out and wanting to know how to go about going on visits or who to contact or the best way to ask the questions or make the relationship. So I thought, why not chat about it with someone who's done some really good work, not only in the relationship piece but also in the follow-up piece. We're putting some work together and making it accessible to the coaching community. So a lot of good stuff in this here. As always, let me know what you think at Gary Curneen on Twitter, at Gary Curneen on Instagram. This podcast is brought to you by Sports Lab 360, a new and innovative online program focused on youth player development from a tactical and soccer IQ perspective. If you haven't come across their program yet, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's perfect for any coaches looking to go the extra mile to enhance the development experience for their players. A little bit more of the halfway point to receive an exclusive MSC podcast offer. Here's Graham. Enjoy. Graham, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon for the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. Very excited to have you on.
No, thanks for having me. It's good to speak to you.
One of the most common questions I get is from coaches asking about club visits, recommendations, where to go, how to go about it. In your experience, what's the best starting point for this?
Yeah, so I was fortunate to work at AFC Bournemouth for 8 years. So within that time, I built a network of contacts. Obviously, coaching is a social process, so making contacts and maintaining relationships is really important. Obviously, what you know is important, but also building a network of the right connections is also really important too. I've not really used Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, social media as much as maybe other people. My contacts would tend to be more face to face, or a personal contact, or a contact of an associate that I know, and then it's sort of building that relationship where I can not only ask for the opportunity to go and visit an environment or go and do a study visit, but it's also reciprocal. So what can I offer back as well? But face-to-face personal contact has always been the best medium for me, which I know is difficult, but obviously there are platforms like Twitter, which have obviously my contact with you is through Twitter, and it is very valuable. But I've tended to think that a more personable approach is really good.
We'll definitely talk about that reciprocal piece later on. In terms of looking at the teams to study, I think if you ask a group of coaches in any community, they'd probably say, well, I'd love to go and watch Klopp in Liverpool. Oh, I'd love to go and watch Pep in Manchester City. How do you look beyond the big market teams and look at different systems or environments that you want to study and you want to look at up close? How do you go about that process?
Yeah, so I've always tried to do a bit of research first and foremost, and identify clubs that maybe have a differentiating factor or something slightly unique about what they do, and that's been an interest that I've wanted to then pursue. So Bilbao would be an obvious one with their sort of self-imposed restrictions on only playing Basque players. I've sort of looked into certain things that are of interest to me, and then I've tried to form a contact or relationship somewhere, or I've asked do you know anyone that might know someone, and then try and build a relationship and sort of a rapport or some trust, where then I can then go and look at a club. I completely understand that most people want to go and see Pep Guardiola coach, but access is very restricted, and I work in development with young players, so my interest has been more around, well, that club's doing something really unique and very different. What can I learn from them and maybe apply some of the things, not all of them because it won't fit the culture or the environment I might work in, but what can I bring back and maybe introduce to my environment?
Yeah, let's go a little deeper into that. So it looks as if instead of just watching games, there's obviously a research part of it. There's literature that you pick up. It's not just watching a team play and liking a certain system or a certain style of play or even a high-profile coach. It's the environment, it's the infrastructure, it's the organisation of the club, or even it's the culture. You're looking at learning and observing along those lines?
Yeah, I think you go to, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine. If I go to a CPD session or go to watch a coach work, or I'll ask someone, so, what did you see? And it's almost like, well, I've seen that before. I think they're missing the real value of going and observing someone else coach. You may well have seen the practice or a similar variation of it before, but it's about, how does that coach develop rapport? What is the timing of the interventions? What's the environment they've set around it? How do they create a connection with the players first and foremost? So it's all those details that I am fascinated with. I think if you develop a culture, and you can maintain that through the living traditions that you sort of you stick to, and the way that you go about your day-to-day work, I think without that, it's you can't really get maximal gains from the way you deliver your sessions. I think it's the other things that maybe go unnoticed, that other people perhaps don't pick up on. They're the real things that I try and take from the visits that I go to.
So once you've finalised the visit and you've got everything set up, what kind of preparation work do you do before going in? When it's me, I've never requested meetings. I've always just played it by ear, tried to grab a coffee with them, and always approached it from just training and observing first. Do you actually plan the meetings, the sit down with the coaches, or how do you go about that?
Well, the visits that I've been on they've all been very different. So sometimes when I'm having that initial conversation with them about coming in and visiting, I'll ask if there's an opportunity to sit down with the sporting director or with the psychologist or the sports science team, because there might be something specifically but sometimes it's sort of evolves while you're there. So I'll go and watch a session, and I'll have some idea of what I want to go and ask about, like a semi-structured sort of interview, and then it might deviate somewhere else. So I might watch something, observe something, opens up another line of interest or something that I want to pursue further. So yeah, it's very, sometimes when I'm there, just through conversation in the canteen or just after a session, I might talk to someone and they'll say, I've got half an hour this afternoon, why don't you pop by the office and we can sit down and chat. So whilst there's certain things I want to address or things that I ask for before I go, really every visit sort of evolves whilst you're there. And then it's just about being able to take these opportunities when they do come up. If there's an opportunity to sit down with a member of staff and pick their brains, and similarly they want feedback as well. They want to ask, so what did you see? And then they inquire about what we do at AFC Bournemouth or what I did do, and if they can learn anything as well. So again, it's that mutual respect and that reciprocation of ideas and sharing as well.
I think one thing all my visits have had in common is that I've always been asked to wait somewhere for 10, 15, 20 minutes while someone's in a meeting or someone's talking to someone or someone's doing something just in the everyday life of a club, and you're just sitting having a coffee on your own watching the world go by. And I've come to really enjoy that aspect of it, because you can just observe how the club and the culture of the club operates in the daily routine. And I listened to an interview from Fergus Connolly, and he talked about once he arrives at a facility, he can suss the culture out by meeting the security guards or the people at the desk or the first couple of people he talks to. He knows exactly what type of culture he's walking into. Do you feel the same way whenever you go visit a place?
Yeah, whenever you go to a study visit, obviously they want to present the best things that they do, the best side of themselves, so that you go away with a really good opinion of the club. That's only natural to want to do that, but it's the downtime, that's sitting in the stands and just talking with the parents, or having a conversation over a cup of coffee, or just speaking to the guys on the desk as you come in on reception. It's you get a real feel of what it's like. And yeah, I really value those conversations.
And then once the visit is wrapped up, what's your process for evaluating it, putting everything together, writing everything up? How do you go about that there?
Yeah, so whilst I'm there, I'll make notes of sort of everything I see, and try and capture everything. And then it's really a case of sort of reflecting on that experience and trying to structure it in a way that is presentable. And it does take a lot of time, but then hopefully what you produce at the end of it, there's going to be some sort of declarative information which just states facts or my observations. But what I try to do with those reflections is sort of get under the skin and present the sense of what it was like there, and the impression that it left on me, or what the environment felt like. Because I think you can go online and you can read, you can read about a club, or you can read about the way an academy works. But I think the real important thing is that, what did it feel like? What was the overall impression that it left? So I think that's an important part of the presentations that I've tried to do. I haven't always got it right, and my writing style is always sort of evolving and improving. But I think what I try and do is be impartial. So I'm not there to judge. I'm not there to say their way of doing it's the right way or the wrong way. It's just, I'm just presenting, this is how it felt. This is the vibe that I got. This is the information that I saw. And then it's for people that kindly read the presentation to form their own opinions, and hopefully give a bit of feedback.
I remember when I was starting off as a coach, coaches were pretty secretive about their visits, and they wouldn't give a lot up about going somewhere good and sharing what they picked up. But it's changed slightly now, and you've gone the complete opposite way. Not only do you present your findings and the ideas and the breakdown of what you've learned, but you also put it in a format that is easily digestible, that's enjoyable to read. Do you enjoy that process, or is that something that you find holds you accountable to analyse the visit from your point of view and go a little bit deeper in what you've picked up? Yeah,
I really enjoy the reflective side of it, of coming away and sort of processing what I saw, and then trying to put it into, like you say, a format that's hopefully engaging and is good to read. But my motivation really is that I was fortunate to be in a position at Bournemouth, and I had access to those experiences, which not a lot of coaches, or some coaches won't have those resources or the time to be able to do it. So I personally value theory of communities of practice, where you can share knowledge, and collectively you then hopefully all improve current practices. You capture knowledge from each other and share, given a platform for growth, which hopefully is mutually beneficial. So I improve from doing the study visit, reflecting on it, presenting on it, and then hopefully others will benefit from reading it. I think you're right. I think in past or traditionally, football clubs have been quite insular structures. So it sort of restricts the flow of information. So what one club is doing, they don't really want to share with someone else, and they're almost like safeguarding their secrets. But I personally believe that as a fraternity of coaches, I guess it holds us back, especially in an evolving sort of dynamic environment like football. What I found really fascinating was in Holland, if you're the top categorization of academy there, part of the requirements of that categorization is that you have to share best practice with the clubs in your local environment, your local catchment area. So you're upskilling grassroots coaches, and therefore, as a result of that, the players are being upskilled. So I guess in effect, the base of the development pyramid becomes broader, and then therefore the players that can reach the sort of elite or excellence level of the pyramids, the numbers increase. I think the FA are doing some good stuff here in England with introducing mentors at grassroots. But what we need to do is really upskill local grassroots, and we've probably as academies gone the other way, and we've developed pre-academies and taking players at even younger ages, 5 and 6, so rather than upskilling the grassroots and our local sort of environment, we're actually taking the players at younger ages and then sort of keeping them in the academy longer. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just an opportunity to, if I've got access, rather than keep it to myself, share it with others, because I've had some great feedback on sort of social media, people that have read it and have sort of good, bad or indifferent have suggested ways or ideas. And again, I benefit from that, and hopefully they've benefited from reading it. So I think sharing is really important.
Yeah, I love that from the Dutch clubs, where they're sharing exactly what they're doing and going into the community and giving examples of what they are and their vision. And I suppose, how can we move away from idealistic coach theory, where it's either, you know, play models that we're all copying the same one, we all want to be a possession-based team, or else in terms of coach education, we're all reading Pep Confidential. How can we be more honest and maybe straightforward in what we're doing ourselves, weaknesses and everything? How can we do a better job of that as a coaching community?
Good question. I think obviously we're in an age where, you know, information is a lot more accessible now than it ever was. So there's some really good stuff online, you know, blogs and analytical pieces. But really, I think it all depends on what level the coach is at. I think we're all sort of scrambling for lots of tactical and technical detail, but I think sometimes it's the other things that we require as coaches that, from my experiences, I see what differentiates some of the best coaches is not necessarily how much information they've got on a certain topic, but how they actually communicate that and get that information across. So more about the softer skills. So, you know, what rapport do they build with the players? What language they use to make what can be quite a complex thing seem quite simple to a player. So yeah, I get the idea that, because Pep Guardiola's, you know, always been at the forefront of new ideas and the way that his teams play. Everyone wants to sort of read those bits and learn little snippets from what they can. But I think probably a lot of coaches really need to work on other areas of the game, and it might be around those softer skills that I mentioned. How you make that more glamorous and more appealing to them to want to do that, I don't know. But like I say, from all the coaches that I've worked with and some of the best coaches I've seen work, it's not necessarily that they know more than other people in terms of that subject area. It's just they've got a very, very good way of expressing that and communicating that.
Yeah, their personality.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays into it. I think the environment they create for players, their enthusiasm that they show, there's lots of things that the really good coaches that some people will assume that it's unglamorous, or it's not necessarily worthy of spending a lot of time watching or learning about those aspects of their delivery. But that's the things that differentiate them from others. Is those things which are hard to teach, but you know, if we observe them more and we learn more from them, the manner that they express, etc., then maybe, you know, it wouldn't be so hard to teach.
Just pause this interview with Graham there to remind anyone listening to set aside a few minutes of your day to check out Sports Lab 360. It's a new online program that focused on player development from a game understanding and soccer IQ perspective. The program empowers you as a coach to control the tactical development of your players outside the time spent on the field. Use the platform to assign soccer homework to your players, selecting modules that coincide with the tactical focus of training. Players work through the module that you assign, and they see game film examples, they engage with an animated interactive lesson, and then take a quiz at the end to check for understanding. This helps to identify potential areas of development for a team and player basis, while optimising the limited time you have on the field with your players. Here's back to Graham.
Looking at the other side now, you've worked for a Premier League club. How often have coaches reached out? How have they gone about coming in to looking at Bournemouth, and how open have the club been in facilitating that type of visit?
Well, we had several coaches from local grassroots clubs. There was always interest to come and watch, observe their local academy, and sort of learn from us and some of the things that we were doing. We had some European coaches come and visit. There was the Maltese A license that some coaches came over. Our sports scientist Ben Bradley developed a link with them, and they came over and spent a week with us observing different areas of the academy. The community department at AFC Bournemouth actually set up it's an annual thing, a 3-month study exchange with the Chinese football coaches. So they would come to Bournemouth and work with AFC Bournemouth staff, complete certain coaching qualifications. But again, it's the interest that was in AFC Bournemouth come to visit was there had to be an inherent visit because we did something different or unique, or was seen to be unique. And probably for me, it's the fact that their journey over the last 8-9 years of, almost being at the bottom of the League Two, and to where they are now, the appeal of a young, progressive English manager, a very good playing philosophy that ran through the club. So I think when people sort of started to realise that and see that, I think then the interest of people coming and observing at Bournemouth, we had several visits on a regular basis.
What have you got? What's coming up next? Have you got a target list of any places that you want to go?
Well, I'm hoping to go to Germany in April. That's not confirmed yet, but I'm hopefully going over to there. And then something completely different would be Hong Kong in May. So a good friend of mine has got a friend that coaches in Hong Kong. So again, it's the interest in that one really is it's a completely different culture to what I've observed or seen. So I guess something completely different for me.
Yeah, staying on you then and your mentality to get better and improve and develop. What's on your list of places to go, or what area are you looking to improve on as a coach at this moment in time, and why?
Well, my role's changed just recently. So after 8 years at Bournemouth, I'm now working at Solent University, so in a lecturing position on a football studies course. So it's a course that's developed a real track record and reputation for getting graduates into the football industry in various roles, so coaching, performance analysis, recruitment. And the reason why I went into that role is, the task of trying to contribute to the development of the next generation of English coaches was something that really appealed to me. So I've only been delivering on the programme for 3 weeks, but what's really impressed me so far is the enthusiasm, the knowledge, the diversity of the cohort, which has made it a really rich learning environment. So we've got students on there from all over the world, different backgrounds, different perspectives and experiences. So for me, it's trying to sort of adjust to that different role that I'm now in. And for me, what I've learned so far is that the old adage is really true, that you don't know something until you've taught it. So you've got some really bright coaches on this cohort, and they want to challenge, they want to ask questions. So I've got to make sure that my knowledge is very good. So what I'm trying to do is watch as many games from all over the world, different playing styles, because I've been so aligned really to a way of playing for the last 8 years. What I'm really keen to do now is to see as much football and read as many different things as I can. So when we have those discussions in the lectures, I can be confident that I can contribute and make sure that if I'm asked questions, I can give some information. So that's the real challenge for me now. It's just an adjustment of roles and making sure that I can give the students the best experience from the journey that they're on.
Yeah,
on an educational course like a university, how do you balance, or how do you emphasize that, although there is a lot of information that the students will be taking on board from a coaching point of view with systems of play and structures and how to incorporate analysis and science, etc., how do you focus on, or how do you highlight the fact that the personality piece and that communication piece is so important? How does that come across throughout the year?
Well, obviously, I've got the industry experience of having worked in a club, so I can sort of give them my advice on how they need to conduct themselves or behave in an elite environment, or if they were to get a placement or a role in an academy or a football club. It's not an easy environment to. I think some people assume that it can be easy to, or once you're in, it can be comfortable. You're doing something that you love, and it's a sport that you enjoy. But you have to have those skill sets that we encourage from the players as well. So you have to be resilient, you have to be robust, you have to be adaptable, and come up with solutions to problems. And a lot of that is around, again, it's around relationships. So this coaching is a social process, and if you've got the personality where you can deal with those setbacks, and you can create relationships and have a good personality about you, and when things are tough, you don't allow it to change your enthusiasm, because at the end of the day, the players are the most central thing to a football club. Making sure that you're getting the best out of them, especially in the development environment. So if they allow their behaviour to change, or their manner, the way they come across, then that's obviously going to impact on learning and the consistency in the learning place. So yeah, it's not something that I've covered yet. I've only been in 3 weeks, so we're talking a lot around how the game has evolved and where it is at the moment. So in lectures and seminars, good discussions, and then trying to bring that to life in the practicals. But certainly across the units that I will deliver on, and I know some of the lecturers are working on those sorts of topics now, on what are the characteristics and the traits and the behaviours that you need to show in an elite environment and to succeed in football. The football is the beautiful game, especially if it's a game that you love. There's no better thing than to be working in a sport and an industry that you're passionate about. But we shouldn't confuse that with it's just every day is exciting, and every day's it's going to be easy because it's something I love. It's tough, it's demanding. There's a lot of hours involved. There's a lot of conversations that you have, difficult conversations at times, and you need to be prepared for that. So it's difficult if you're a young student and you're going into a club for the first time, it's difficult to really prepare them for what the expectations of that environment might be like. But I guess that's where myself and if we bring guest lecturers in, and the other lecturers that are on the team there, to give their experiences and their anecdotal evidence of what it's like, so that we can best prepare them. And then obviously it's up to them for their own, hopefully their personality and their the way that they can deal with these situations to ensure that they can have longevity in the game. Especially the demands of modern coaching, and you'll know as well that the amount of accountability that you've got now, and the login sessions, and making sure it's all planned, and the time that's needed to spend reflecting. It's not just the 2-3 hours you spend on the pitch each day. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of background work that goes into that. So it's tough and demanding. So we're trying to prepare them for that, but obviously there's a sense of ownership that they've got to take as well, to make sure that they've prepared as best they can to succeed if and when that opportunity comes up.
There'll also be quite a few coaches listening to this who probably won't struggle with the email or building relationships, but might just struggle with getting a week off work, or leaving the team without an assistant coach for a week, or struggling to free up the time to get away and take a club visit to Europe or South America or Asia, wherever it is. What advice would you give to those coaches to get some coach education and get a different type of experience?
Yeah, it can be really difficult. So if if you're not fortunate to be coaching full time and you've got to balance it with a full time job, then it is really difficult. Also, resources. If it's not always cheap to go and travel abroad or to another part of the country to go and observe a coach. So it is really difficult. I think the thing that I found is try and be proactive in terms of if you're looking to go away at some point, make sure there's plenty of lead in time, because if you can book something in and it's in place, then that's great. Obviously, in football environments, things change very quickly. So if it's the fact of next week I've got some time off, I'll try and contact someone. It's very difficult because things need to be planned in advance. But yeah, I would definitely encourage if there is a possibility to travel and go and see other coaches work or what different environments. We're quite fortunate. The world's a lot smaller now because of travel, and we've become a lot more connected as a result. The game here in England, for example, has evolved a lot as a result of foreign coaches and overseas talent, and I'm sure it's going to continue to evolve and change. So the next generation of coaches I'm working with now, the game's probably going to be very different when they're hopefully in situ in clubs. So travelling to see what other coaches do and the environments and they work, I think is a great opportunity to learn. And if there are barriers in the way, it's just hopefully trying to remove as many as you can and get that planning in place as soon as possible.
And then last one, going away, taking a visit, educational trip. How often should coaches be doing this?
As often as they can, really. The only thing that you don't want to do is be constantly doing it all the time, for example, because you need to consolidate what you're actually, because you're going to a club to hopefully pick up things and learn things or see a different perspective on things. So you then actually, if you're on the grass and you're coaching, it's then about applying that knowledge or finding where it fits for you. So you actually need some time to reflect and consolidate that information. So you don't want to make it too regular, but similarly, you want enough exposure to be able to do it so that it does give you those different viewpoints and that little bit of inspiration or a bit of innovation. So yeah, I mean, if you can get away once a year or once every couple of seasons, I think that's probably enough for you to give you enough material to be able to then go and see if it works for you and have a go with it.
Brilliant, Graham. Thank you so much. Top class.
No worries. No, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Graham for his time and his insight there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I would highly, highly recommend that if you haven't already, go and check out Graham's study visit presentation on AZ Alkmaar. It's on his Twitter page. It's the pinned tweet at the top. So I think if you shoot him a message or an email or whatever, he'll send you the link to it. It's absolutely brilliant. Definitely worth checking it out. If you want the cliff notes, of course, check out Modern Soccer Coach coaching your 4-3-3 as well. There's some of it in there too. But on all seriousness, I suppose the two things that I would take from that there, and in talking to Graham quite a bit on visits and how to get the most from it, I suppose, is to do a little bit more time and research on the front end and be a bit more intentional about who you want to see and what you need to see as a coach. Is it a culture? Is it an environment? Is there a relationship between the science and the field, or is there a relationship between the analysis and the field? Is there some form of coaching that you want to get better at? Is there someone's reputation who you've been told that you need to go check out? That is usually a lot more valuable than watching a game and seeing someone attack or score plenty of goals and say, I'd love to see what they do in a training session or an attacking session. For me personally, going and seeing people communicate, not just coaches to players, but seeing coaches to coaches communicate and seeing staff to coaches communicate at different environments, I just love observing that there. So I'm always open to going, looking and seeing. And yeah, as I'm getting a bit more experienced, I'm becoming a little bit more selective in who I want to see and why. And maybe even going outside the game too to observe some things. And then on the other end of it, two things on this. Number one, I think if you go somewhere, I think it would be great for you to put together some notes and share it, because yes, it would benefit the coaching community, myself included of course, but also it would then challenge you to put it together in a professional way, and also maybe challenge you to get the detail right in your assessment. And then I would recommend coaches can engage in their community and invite other coaches to come in and take a look, or other coaches to come in and assess, or grab coffee with people. And I think as a coaching community we could do a much better job of that there. So it's one thing that I would like to see a little bit more of, instead of taking a plane 7-8 hours away to a different time zone or a different country or a different continent. Maybe we could do a little bit more closer to home and help one another. So shouldn't just be an open session. The door should always be open for clubs and schools and teams, and I think we should be a bit more accessible to not only reaching out and sharing our knowledge, but also getting some feedback on what we're given as well. So as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. At Gary Curneen on Instagram, at Gary Curneen on Twitter. Really appreciate you listening. As always, have a great week. Enjoy.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. For more coaching topics, sessions, and resources, head on over to Coach Curneen on Facebook or visit the website at www.modernsoccercoach.com.